ventured
Mm.
into a couple of entrepreneurship ventures, right? Because I believe that those leadership roles back in high school also set a momentum
Yeah.
and gave you positive traits and
Hmm.
characters to
Yeah.
embark on some entrepreneurship journey. So, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, you can
Yeah.
tell us a bit about some of the fast forward after school, or if there's something that happened that also maybe back in high school that also motivated you to venture into entrepreneurship after high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think fast forward, one of the things or one of the qualities that you develop over time. Because funny enough and interestingly enough, we were the first batch that did the 4 years during the Kufuor era. So it meant that we became school prefect for 2 solid years.
Wow.
So almost all our predecessors were people who did just a year as school prefects. But our time, we did 2 solid years. So if you remember, because you were part of that, you realize that
Yeah.
the prefectship, like we kept so long in
Yes.
the
Yes.
portfolios, in the
Yeah.
various portfolios, and it at the point so overwhelming, and it's like some of the people were even tired, but we endured because at some point, some of our colleagues prefects were falling off and stuff like that, literally speaking. But fast forward, I think that one of the qualities that came with being a school prefect is that you will pick up traits that predisposes you to become a quality leader in other areas, not just about leading people, but leading yourself one more time and even in business. So fast forward, when I went to university, one of the things that I quickly picked up was that I felt like I cannot finish university and go around looking for a job. I had that inclination very early in the first year in the university. So I quickly developed interest and passion for entrepreneurship. So I was doing something we call trade-off. Simply that sometimes I look at some of my university courses and say, "Oh, this course I can easily pass. This course I'm not too much interested in it." So when there is extracurricular activities like there is a seminar, there is a program about entrepreneurship, starting up a business. I remember there was one University of Ghana called Student Startup Enterprise or something like that. They were encouraging students to start up something. I was attending all those kind of conferences. So for me, sometimes I have to shun some of my lectures and go forward some of these workshops. And fast forward, when I was just about a year to finish university, I realized that no, my passion and my interest was in IT. So why don't I start something? So I decided that okay, I was going to set up my own IT school, or either to do IT training or even to start software development. But as at that time, even though I had so much passion and so much enthusiasm and so much energy for tech, I didn't know much about coding. I didn't know much about web development. I didn't know much about all the rudiments of software engineering, whether it is web, mobile, or whatever. But even back in the university, I was still showing interest. There was a time somebody was organizing something like a training program for people like that. I paid, and all of a sudden the training never came on. So
Wow.
fast forward, I realized that I was so much interested in starting my own business. So I think that for me, if I take my mind back, why was I having that desire? I think it was because of the school prefectship thing. It's the leadership thing. Because one of the things that leadership will teach you is how to be creative, how to think, how to solve problems, how to want to be one step ahead of the group. Because being a school prefect or being a student leader meant that you are thinking about how to solve problems, how to bring discipline, how to make sure you are disciplined. So it's every day you are being creative. So if you practice creativity for 2 years, there's a research that shows that if you pick a habit for a couple of there's a period, after some time you become a master of that, and it doesn't take a year to master a particular habit. How much more taking 2 years to be doing the same thing over and over again, waking up early, going to check this, going to do that as a school prefect, going to debate. So I think that naturally I realized that I developed a great sense of independence. So at the end of the day, it fed into my desire and passion for entrepreneurship. So quickly,
Yeah.
I set up my first business, which was Linux IT services, which also has its own story we will talk about another time. Yeah, so fast forward, my first attempt was to start up an IT service where I decided that, okay, what should I do? In fact, when I said I wanted to start an IT service or I started my own business, I was asking myself, what exactly can I do? My interest was in software development, but as at that time, I wasn't having the requisite skill and knowledge. Even though I've watched a couple of tutorials, I was having a lot of enthusiasm. I knew that I couldn't write a simple website as at that time, and I knew that I was going to learn. But what do I start with? But I also realized that after 4 years of university, I have accumulated a lot of knowledge in the course I did in IT. So why don't I start IT training? Because there are so many basic things in IT that I am a master of that other people are not. And I think one thing that also helped me was during my national service. Because while I did my national service, I discovered that it was possible for me to set up an IT service to help other people. So that was my first attempt at business, was to set up an IT service, which grew into several other things that we will be talking about as well.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you mentioned problem solving, because I've come to realize that one of the things that we are unaware that leadership train us to do is become aware of problems and then solve it almost immediately or with little or no resources. Because there'll be a problem, and I believe that you encountered it so many times, because I recall that at Campus you embarked on a lot of projects, one being Mr. and Mrs. Odogono. And you told me of some of the stories where you were trying to get sponsorship, trying to get media help. Because it was your project, you have a passion for it, right? Even though maybe you didn't have a lot of, especially financial support, maybe from the school itself, right? From the coffers of your leadership, you force yourself to be resourceful. And one of the things that leadership helps you to do is to see every problem as an opportunity to overcome, right? And so I think that's one of the things leadership instills in people, that unconsciously, when we see problems, we're like, okay, this is a challenge. Your first instinct is, how do I overcome? And not, okay, this is a problem, I don't think I can solve it. Because leadership always, there's a saying that everything rises and falls on leadership, right?
That's true, 100%.
So that, there are people at stake, there are resources at stake, and even sometimes your reputation is at stake. Right? I'm sure you came up with the project or the idea to do that, and then you spoke to people. So with the aim to make it happen, you are like, I have to happen.
So let me give you an example. It's a very perfect thing that you brought up. For example, in Odogono, when you are the school prefect or the senior prefect, you are also the SLC president. So I doubled as the school prefect or the head prefect and also the SLC president. And so I remembered
SLC
going
meaning student.
Sorry?
SLC.
Student Representative Council. SRC, Student Representative Council. So you will both be a head prefect at the same time, the SRC president. In many schools, that is how it is. Some schools have a different varieties of it. So during that time, I think Odogono was celebrating its 70th anniversary or so. I've forgotten the exact anniversary. So SRC wanted to do something. And then I said, look, we sat at a meeting. Then we came up with the idea that let us do Mr. and Miss Osa, all right? And I'm trying to bring this example to collaborate with exactly what you are saying, that it's about problem solving and stuff like that. Now, doing Mr. and Miss Osa was a very tough decision. It was very difficult initially, but it was surmounted. You can attest to that. So I remember when we came up with the idea, we have to go and seek permission from the headmistress, Mrs. Miriam Ankwame. May her soul rest in perfect peace. So I had to go with some of my SRC executives. And first of all, we came up with the idea. Now the onus lies on me to package that idea, write it as a project, and submit it to the headmistress and go and defend it. Because there has been this notion, Mrs. Amaramakwa didn't like too much of acrimony and student being in too much negativity. So there has been this notion that the Mr. and Miss Osa will be a deviant kind of thing. So I had to present the project to the headmistress. Then when I went there, she asked me, okay, this is a nice project you guys want to do, get the money from. One of her key concerns was that she doesn't want the situation where the contestant would have to be forced to procure logistics or things that they would have to use for themselves that will
From their own
generate a
coffers.
lot of controversies among
Yeah.
parents that their children have to buy this. So then she asked me, how are we going? Because she doesn't want the situation where any parent will call and say, especially with regards to the ladies, that they have to get money to go and buy costumes and all those things. She doesn't want that. Then another question she asked me was, are they going to be wearing bikini? Are they going to be wearing bikini and doing all? I said, no, madam. That is not how we want to do it. Ours is going to be called the Ambassadors Show or Ambassadors. But because it's a mixed school, it's almost in many schools called Mr. and Miss Osa. It's a talent show. So we rebranded the whole thing. It's not a pageant. It's not a beauty pageant. But it was going to be what? An intellectual contest where the contestants will be given the opportunity to exhibit their talent. That was where Familia also, I think that was the first platform in secondary school that Familia performed.
Okay.
It was going to be a
He was a
platform.
contestant for.
Yeah, he was a contestant. And I think he wasn't the ultimate winner for the boys, but he was the second or the first runner-up. He was the first runner-up for Chris Parker. Chris Parker was the winner of the first ever Mr. and Miss Osa that was organized. And that happened in our time. It's a very interesting story because apparently the headmistress has disallowed that kind of event to ever happen in the school because they've had a previous bad experience when it comes to entertainment programs. So she was like, I have to convince her why and how we can do it. So my first task was, how are they going, first of all, to let her know that it was not a beauty pageant. So I was able to execute that explanation for her and she was satisfied. I told her that the contestants will be given the opportunity to exhibit their talent. Some of them can sing, some of them can do drama and all kinds of things. And then secondly, they will be also asked questions. They'll be asked to do research, and based on the research, they'll be asked questions. Okay, this is beautiful. She support that idea. The second question was, how are they going to handle costume? Because she doesn't want any parent calling to complain about this and that, especially with her, the ladies. She doesn't want the ladies to go and fall victim of any vices because of this program. And I was like, I had to think on my feet.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, madam. So what we plan to do is that we will give the contestants a contribution card. We will design a card for them where they can take, and during vacation, because we'll be going on midterm before we come back for the anniversary. When they go on midterms, they can take it around friends and family and raise funds. She was like, okay, that is good. So she will see how we go about that, and then we can proceed with the whole program. Wow. So I had to think on my feet and come up with that solution. That this is how we are going to help the contestant, those who cannot afford it, to be able to get the money.
So, like, before you went to her, was it one of the solutions that you had already thought of?
No.
Wow.
No.
So you have to problem solve immediately.
Yes, immediately. because it was, I didn't know her mind, but for me, I knew that if I'm not able to impress her or convince her, maybe she would say no. Because she was a very strict and she was a very lovely woman, but she would also make sure that no negativity, let me put it in simple terms, no negativity and deviance. So the honors lied on me and the team that went there to be able to convince her. Because already, like I said, the notion is there that such kind of programs, Mrs. Meramankwa will not accept it. So now we have to find a way to convince her. So that particular solution or that particular idea of how to help the contestants to be able to generate money to get their own costumes for the program, it just came on top of my head. And it's not in vacuum. I would say it's not in vacuum. Why am I saying that? Because once again, back in Scripture Union, there was a time when we are going for programs and camps and we don't have money. We are giving that card to take around to solicit for funds from people. So even though I had to think of that idea on my feet, it was not in vacuum. My subconscious actually put it into memory. So
transferable knowledge.
So we did that, and another very important thing, I mean, it was so exciting. I think that was one of the things for me that I learned so much from, was the ability to get results, to make things, to get things done. You know,
resourcefulness.
So resourcefulness. It got to a point in time. So now we finally got a permission to go ahead with the program. And the SRC was not having money. So we have to find money for the program. But we knew that we are going to sell tickets. First, the idea of ticket also came. People said, when we sell tickets, students will not buy, they will not come for the event. I said, no, they will come. It depends on how we will do it. So what did we do? We decided that we are going to form a ticket committee or a ticket team. And for each of the members of the ticket, about 10 people or so, and we're going to use the popular guys on campus. Those guys who do the yo and all those things, we are going to use them. I remember one other guy, forgotten his name. The name just skipped me. We use a lot of them, and we gave them free. Come again.
Pinto.
Oh, Expinto was obviously he was there. He was our mate. He was even supposed to be the entertainment prefect for the story. So Expinto was part of the people who were heading the ticket thing. But there were some genius also that were every school you find some genius who are a bit rubbish shoulders with the big guys. So we use them. And then the strategy was that when they sell more tickets, for them they are going to have free tickets. But when they sell more tickets, we give them something small as well. Look, the tickets sold. We had a lot of money from that event. I won't lie to you. Even we used some of the money to support the school to rent a tractor or a trailer for the float for that anniversary. Because I remembered at a point in time, the headmistress sent for me. I came and she was like, and the float that we are going to embark on, there's a challenge. The SRC doesn't have money in our coffers. How can we support? But that was after we did the Mr. and Miss Osa. So we already had some proceeds. She called the entertainment master as well, because the entertainment master, when we sat down and we planned, okay, when we go, we will give X amount of money to the school. So we gave them the money and she was so excited. So I think one of the things leadership does is it makes you creative and just like you said, resourceful. So these are some of the examples.
Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing.